This happened about 3 years ago. I've debated for a long time whether I should ever talk about it. Not because I'm afraid people won't believe me, but because I don't have a clean explanation for what happened. I still don't. At the time, my life was already coming apart in ways that didn't leave much room for common sense. I'd just been laid off from the auto shop I worked at for almost 6 years. No warning. No severance. Just a locked door and a short text from the owner saying he was shutting everything down. Rent was overdue. My truck barely ran. And my younger sister had medical bills I was helping cover. I was applying everywhere. Warehouses, gas stations, landscaping crews. Anything that paid more than minimum wage. Most places never called back. So when my friend Chris texted me late one night, I didn't hesitate. It was close to 11 p.m. when my phone buzzed. "You still need work?" "My uncle needs a few guys. Starts tomorrow. Easy money." I asked what the job was. He said it was temporary. He said the pay was good, and that was pretty much it. Normally, I would have pushed for more details. That night, I didn't. Chris picked me up early the next morning. We drove out of town and kept going. The farther we went, the quieter everything became. Traffic thinned out. Houses disappeared. Eventually, my phone lost service. After nearly an hour, we turned onto a dirt road that stretched straight through open land. No signs, no markers, just dust and tire tracks. That road went on for a few miles. At the end of it stood the building. Calling it a warehouse doesn't really capture it. It was enormous, a massive rectangle of rusted metal sitting alone in the middle of nowhere. No nearby buildings, no power lines. No signs of recent activity. The front gate immediately caught my attention. 2 massive steel doors, corroded and flaking, easily 20 feet tall. They looked thick enough to stop a truck. I remember thinking they looked less like an entrance and more like a barrier. Like something you wouldn't want opened unless you had to. Inside, rows and rows of old vehicles sat covered in dust. Sedans, SUVs, a few former patrol cars. Everything smelled like rust, mold, and stagnant air. The building was so large that once you walked deep enough inside, the outside world felt distant, like you'd stepped into something sealed off. There were 7 of us total. Chris, me, an older man named Marshall who barely spoke, 3 mechanics, and 2 local workers who stayed close to the entrance. They wouldn't go farther in. When Chris asked one of them why, he didn't even look up. "That place didn't stay empty for decades by accident," he said. Then he changed the subject. The job itself was simple. Check which vehicles started, mark the ones that ran, prep the rest for repairs. Out of nearly 100 cars, only about 20 started. That's when we noticed the lights. There was no master switch. Every row had its own breaker box, spaced far apart. If you wanted the lights on, you had to walk to each one manually. At the end of the day, someone had to shut them all off. That job ended up being mine. Every night, I walked farther into the warehouse than anyone else. Click. 1 row dark. Click. Another. At first, it was just uncomfortable. Then I started hearing footsteps. Always behind me. They weren't loud. They weren't rushed. They just matched my pace. If I stopped walking, they stopped. When I turned around, there was never anything there. Just rows of vehicles disappearing into darkness. I told myself it was my imagination. A big building, long days, no windows. But it happened every night. A few days into the job, we heard the first bang. A single heavy impact against the front gate. Not a knock. Something harder. We all froze. Then it happened again. The metal rattled, and dust shook loose from the ceiling. We grabbed tools and walked toward the entrance. Chris opened the gate. There was nothing outside. No animals, no people, no footprints, just empty land. The next night, it happened again. By the third night, nobody laughed about it anymore. The mechanics stopped working alone. The two local workers refused to come inside at all. Chris finally called his uncle. His uncle didn't sound surprised. "Yeah," he said. "I know about the noises." That was it. No explanation. Instead, he told us to move the vehicles outside for repairs, which meant dragging dead cars from the far end of the warehouse to the front lot. Nearly half a mile. Every time. That's when people started noticing things they couldn't explain. A dark shape shifting between cars. A dark shape where there shouldn't have been anything. Something that stopped moving the moment you looked straight at it. No one joked anymore. One night, while we were finishing the last batch of vehicles, the lights began shutting off. Not randomly, one row at a time, from the back of the warehouse. Click, dark, click, dark. Marshall froze and said very calmly, "Someone's inside." We didn't wait to confirm anything. We ran. As we ran, something moved with us. Not chasing, not falling behind, just keeping pace. I only caught it once out of the corner of my eye. Just a dark shape, sliding between the rows, gone the moment I tried to focus on it. We made it outside and didn't stop until we reached our cars. No one went back in. Not for tools, not for pay. Chris called his uncle one last time. His uncle didn't ask questions. He just said, "Yeah, I thought so." The job ended that night. The warehouse is still there. A few people I know swear they've seen lights inside while driving past that road at night, even though the power was cut years ago. I don't know what was in that building. I don't try to explain it anymore. Some places don't need to show you anything. They just let you know when you've been there long enough.